What if I told you the richest city in the ancient world was hidden in the middle of a desert? No river, no farmland, no reason to exist. Yet somehow, it became the Amazon warehouse of the Roman Empire. It's the year 100 AD. You wake up before dawn in Petra, a city literally carved into rose-red cliffs. And you're about to have the most profitable day of your life. But first, you need to understand something. This place shouldn't exist. Look around. You're surrounded by desert. Endless, brutal, life-destroying desert. The nearest major city is days away by camel. Water is scarce. Food has to be imported. Building materials? They carve them out of the mountains themselves. And yet, this impossible city controls more wealth than Rome, Egypt, or Babylon. How? One word: location. Petra sits at the crossroads of every trade route that matters. Silk from China comes through here. Spices from India through Petra. Frankincense from Arabia. Petra takes its cut. Anything moving between east and west, north and south, it all flows through this canyon city. And the Nabataeans who built it are getting rich beyond measure. But here's what makes it genius. They don't just tax the caravans. They protect them. They provide water in the desert. They offer security in lawless territory. They've turned geography into the world's first logistics empire. Think Amazon, but 2,000 years early. Except instead of warehouses and delivery trucks, it's camels and narrow desert canyons. You roll off your sleeping mat, and through the doorway carved into solid rock, you can see the sky turning from deep purple to rose gold. The same color as the stone all around you. The city is waking up, and with it, the machine that makes everyone here wealthy. Today, you're expecting a caravan from India. If the goods are what you negotiated, you'll be rich enough to expand to Rome. But first, coffee. Well, not coffee. That won't be a thing for another 1,400 years. But something hot, spiced, and strong. Strong enough to wake you up for the chaos ahead. Ready to take on the world from the heart of the desert.
The smell hits you first. Cardamom, cinnamon, something roasting over an open flame. Your wife is already up, grinding spices in a stone mortar. The sound echoes off the carved walls. Everything here echoes. You live inside a mountain, after all. Your home isn't built, it's carved. 3 rooms hollowed out of rose-red sandstone. Cool in summer, surprisingly warm in winter. The kids are still asleep in the back room. Let them rest. Today's going to be loud enough once the caravans arrive. You step outside, and the city is painted in shades of pink and gold. That's the thing about Petra. It changes color with the sun. Dawn, rose gold. Midday, deep amber. Sunset, blood red mixed with purple shadows. The Greeks called the Nabataeans rock dwellers, and they weren't wrong. But they also called you barbarians, which is hilarious considering you're richer than most of them. The street, if you can call it that, is narrow, carved between cliff faces, barely wide enough for 2 camels to pass. But it's already busy. Merchants setting up shop, workers hauling water from the cisterns, street vendors selling bread that smells so good you can't resist grabbing a piece. The bread is still warm. You tear off a chunk and dip it in olive oil mixed with za'atar. Simple breakfast. But when you're this rich, you can afford to keep things simple. You hear water running. That's the sound of genius. See those channels carved into the rock walls? Those are part of Petra's secret weapon, an entire hidden network of pipes, channels, cisterns, and reservoirs. Romans will eventually steal this technology and call it their own, but the Nabataeans perfected it first. You wash your face in cool water that traveled through rock channels from a cistern half a mile away. Engineering that shouldn't be possible in the desert. But that's Petra, a city that thrives on doing the impossible. Time to head to the sick. The caravan should be arriving soon. The sick. If Petra is a fortress, this is the only door. You enter the narrow canyon, and the world changes. The walls rise 200 feet on either side. Solid rock that closes in so tight you could reach out and touch both sides at once. The morning sun can't reach down here yet. Everything is shadow and echo. This mile-long crack in the earth is Petra's greatest defense. No army can march through here. Maybe 5 men could walk side by side, and that's it. Any invader trying to force their way through would be sitting ducks for archers on the cliffs above. But you're not thinking about war. You're thinking about business. The ground beneath your feet is worn smooth by thousands of camel caravans. You can see the wheel ruts carved into the stone from decades of loaded carts. This narrow passage has seen more wealth flow through it than most kingdoms will ever possess. Your footsteps echo. The air is cool. Somewhere above, you hear a bird. The walls are carved with faces of gods, Nabataean deities watching over travelers. Protection spirits. You nod to them out of habit. The sick twists and turns. Deliberately. Nothing about this approach is accidental. Even if an enemy made it this far, they'd have no idea what's around each bend. But you've walked this path 10,000 times. You know every turn, every carved niche, every place where the morning light breaks through the gap above. And then you round the final corner and there it is. The Treasury, Al-Khazna, carved directly into the cliff face. 40 meters tall. Columns and sculptures that look Greek but are pure Nabataean. The morning sun hits it at just the right angle, turning the whole facade into glowing rose gold. This is Petra's calling card. The first thing every traveler sees. A message carved in stone that says, "We are not desert nomads. We are a civilization that can create beauty in the harshest place on earth." You barely glance at it. You've seen it every day of your life. But you notice the tourists. Yes, tourists, even in 100 AD, standing there with their mouths open, staring like they've never seen architecture before. Romans, Greeks, Egyptians, they all come to gawk. And they all leave lighter in the purse after visiting fees and guide services. But you're not here for tourists. You're here for the caravan. Spices from India, silk from China, it all flows through you. This is the heart of the world. Welcome to Petra. Business is open.
The caravan is here, and it's massive. 200 camels, minimum, maybe more. You can smell them before you see them. That unmistakable scent of animal sweat, spices, and desert dust that means serious money is about to change hands. This is what Amazon's distribution center would look like if it ran on camels and ancient logistics instead of trucks and algorithms. The lead merchant spots you. He's Indian, judging by the style of his robes. You don't speak the same language, but you don't need to. You both speak the universal language of profit margins and quality inspection. His people start unloading. And this is where it gets interesting. See those Nabataean officials with the clay tablets? They're not customs agents. Well, they are, but they're also inventory managers. Every single item gets logged. Weight, origin, quality grade, tax owed. The Nabataeans run the world's first logistics tracking system. The goods start appearing. Silk from China, so fine you can pull an entire bolt through a ring. Pepper from India, worth more than gold by weight in Rome. Frankincense from Arabia, the stuff they literally worship with. Myrrh, cinnamon, precious stones, glass beads that'll be traded north to Gaul. Everything valuable and portable enough to survive a month-long desert crossing. But here's what makes Petra genius. They don't produce any of this. They don't make silk. They don't grow spices. They don't mine gems. They just connect. Think of them as the middlemen who figured out how to make being in the middle the most valuable position on earth. The Indian merchant's goods pass inspection. High quality. As agreed. You nod. He nods. Money will change hands, but not here. That happens in private, in cool stone rooms where serious negotiation occurs over tea and dates. But first, the tax collector wants his cut. See that Nabataean official with the scroll? He's calculating the city's share. 10% on everything. Sounds steep, but it comes with something priceless. Protection. Safe passage through Nabataean territory. Access to water. Armed guards against bandits. Information about safe routes. The Roman Empire wishes it could run logistics this smoothly. The merchant pays without complaint. Because 10% of a successful journey is infinitely better than 100% of a caravan that gets robbed and left to die in the desert. This is how Petra got rich. Not by producing, by facilitating. The original supply chain managers, 1,900 years before the term existed.
The marketplace is insane. And I mean that in the best possible way. Imagine if the New York Stock Exchange, a Middle Eastern bazaar, and an international airport all had a baby, and that baby was raised by desert traders who don't believe in personal space. You're trying to make your way to the silk merchants, but it's like swimming through a human tide. Everyone's shouting. In at least 6 different languages. Aramaic, Greek, Latin, some dialect from India you can't place, Arabic, and something that might be from as far as Ethiopia. A Roman is haggling over glass beads, trying to act like he doesn't desperately want them. He'll lose. Everyone loses negotiations in Petra because the locals have been doing this since birth. You pass a stall selling frankincense. The vendor sees you, immediately starts his pitch. Finest quality. Direct from Dofa. Romans pay triple. You keep walking. You know he's not lying about the Romans paying triple, but you also know you can get better prices if you buy in bulk from your Indian connection. The money changers are doing brisk business. See that guy with the scales and the bags of coins? He's converting Roman denarii into Nabataean currency, Greek drachmas into whatever that Indian merchant needs. And taking a cut on every transaction, obviously. Here's what blows my mind: no banks. No credit cards. No electronic transfers. Everything is cash, credit is based on reputation. And somehow this system moves more wealth per day than most modern cities. A woman walks past carrying a jar of something that smells like flowers and spices mixed with pure luxury. Perfume from Egypt. In Rome, that small jar would cost what a working man makes in 6 months. Here, it's just another Tuesday. You spot your contact, the silk merchant. He's already set up in his usual spot, under an awning that costs more than most people's houses. The fabric hanging behind him catches the light, colors that shouldn't exist, patterns so intricate they look like somebody painted with thread. You approach. He smiles. You smile. Neither of you means it. This is business. And you're both about to pretend you're willing to walk away while secretly hoping to strike a deal. He offers tea. You accept. The negotiation begins. The silk is exceptional this season, he starts. Translation: I'm going to charge you an exceptional amount. I've heard reports of better quality from the northern route, you counter. Translation: I have other options, so don't test me. This dance will take an hour. Maybe 2. But by the end, you'll both walk away feeling like you won. That's the art of it.
Want to know Petra's real secret? It's not the carved facades or the trade routes. It's water, in the middle of the desert. Follow me. You descend a set of stairs carved into the rock. Down, down, into the cool darkness. And then you hear it, the sound of flowing water. Underground, in a desert. This shouldn't be possible. Petra gets maybe 6 inches of rain per year. Total, that's less than Las Vegas gets. And yet somehow, this city of 30,000 people, plus thousands of visiting traders and hundreds of camels, never runs out of water. How? Look at these channels. Carved into solid rock, angled at precisely the right gradient to let water flow without eroding the stone. Every inch calculated. No pumps, no motors, just gravity, geometry, and genius. When it rains, and in the desert, it doesn't rain. It floods. These channels capture every drop. The water runs through a network of underground pipes, some made of carved stone, some of terracotta pottery fitted together so precisely they don't leak. And it all leads here. This cistern, carved into the mountain, big enough to hold thousands of gallons. And this is just one. Petra has dozens, maybe hundreds. Some are public knowledge. Others are secret, known only to the water engineers who maintain them. The Romans will see this system and copy it. The technology will spread across their empire. But the Nabataeans figured it out first, out of necessity. Because if you can't solve the water problem, you can't exist in the desert. But here's the crazy part. They didn't just solve survival. They created abundance. Public fountains, bathhouses, gardens growing in the middle of a wasteland. They took a fundamental limitation and turned it into an advantage that nobody else could match. Think about that. The thing that should have made Petra impossible, no water, became part of what made it invincible. Because they controlled the only reliable water source for hundreds of miles. Caravans had to stop here. They had no choice. It was Petra or die of thirst. Monopoly on water equals monopoly on trade. And monopoly on trade equals wealth that makes Rome jealous. You climb back up into the sunlight, and the heat hits you again. But you're not worried. This city shouldn't exist, but it does, because the people who built it refused to accept limitations.
The temple sits at the heart of Petra, and if you know what to look for, you can see the future written on its walls. On one side, Nabataean gods. Dushara, the mountain deity. Ulazar, the powerful goddess. Carved in the traditional style, abstract and symbolic. This is old Petra. Desert Petra. The Petra that existed before Rome noticed it existed. On the other side, columns. Roman-style columns. And if you look closely, some of the newer carvings show Greek influences. Gods with human faces instead of abstract symbols. Jupiter mixed with Dushara. Venus blending with Ulazar. The priests don't talk about it, but everyone knows what's happening. Rome is getting closer. Not with armies. Not yet. With culture. With money. With the slow, inevitable pull of the empire that's swallowing the world piece by piece. You watch a ceremony. Incense burning, frankincense, naturally, Petra's most valuable export. Prayers in Aramaic. But there's a Roman merchant in the back watching with interest. Taking notes, probably. Everything gets reported back to Rome eventually. Here's what nobody wants to say out loud: Petra's golden age might be ending. Not today. Not this year. Maybe not for another generation. But the signs are there if you're willing to see them. Rome is building new roads. Better roads. Roads that bypass Petra. Why pay Nabataean taxes when you can ship goods directly by sea? The Mediterranean is becoming a Roman lake, and every harbour Rome controls is another route that doesn't need to go through the desert. And then there's the annexation question. Rome doesn't conquer rich client kingdoms anymore. They just absorb them. Peacefully. Diplomatically. Until one day you wake up and you're a Roman province and you didn't even notice when it happened. The priest finishes the ceremony. Smoke rises toward the carved ceiling. Prayers for prosperity. Prayers for protection. Prayers that the trade routes stay open and the caravans keep coming. You add your own prayer, silently. That Petra can adapt. That this city that conquered the desert can also navigate the politics of empire. Because the rocks will last forever. The water system will outlive empires. But the wealth? The trade? The reason Petra matters? That's fragile. Always has been. You leave the temple and head back toward the market. Business waits for no one, and you got a deal to close before sunset.
The silk merchant's office is carved into the rock, like everything in Petra. But this isn't some simple dwelling. This is where serious money moves. The walls are hung with samples. Silk in colors you can't even name. Deep crimson from dyes worth more than gold. Blues that look like they captured pieces of the sky. Gold thread woven so fine it catches light like water. You sit on cushions. He sits across from you. Between you, tea, dates, and enough silk to buy a small farm. The negotiation has been going for an hour, maybe longer. Time moves differently when this much money is on the table. The quality is exceptional, you say? Again, you've said this 5 times. It's true, but you're also establishing that you recognize value. But the northern routes are offering competitive prices. He smiles, waves a hand dismissively. The northern routes are also offering competitive bandits and competitive chances of dying in the snow. With my silk, you pay for certainty. He's not wrong. This is the dance. Both of you know the rough price you'll settle on. Both of you knew it an hour ago. But the ritual matters. The back and forth. The careful language. The unspoken understanding that a deal made too quickly is a deal that leaves one party unsatisfied. If I commit to 3 shipments, you say slowly, exclusively through your network. What terms? His eyes sharpen. Now we're talking real business. Free shipments. Exclusive. I reduce the per unit by 15%, but you guarantee payment in Roman silver. None of this Nabataean currency. Both of you are thinking about annexation. You pretend to think. You're not thinking. You're calculating. 15% off 3 shipments. Paid in stable currency. Exclusive rights. Yeah, this works. Done, you say? He extends his hand. You clasp forearms. The deal is made. No written contract. No lawyers. Just your word and his. In Petra, that's enough. Reputation is everything. Break your word, and you'll never trade in this city again. Honor it, and doors open across 3 continents. The silk will ship next month. You'll have it in Roman markets by summer. The profit margin will be spectacular. You leave his office as the afternoon light starts to fade. The deal is done. One of many today, but this one feels significant. Like you've just secured your family's future for the next generation. If Petra lasts, if the routes stay open, if Rome doesn't change everything. But those are tomorrow's worries. Tonight, you're successful, wealthy, and the sun is setting on the most beautiful city in the desert.
You climb the steps to the high place. It's a ritual. Every successful day of trading ends here, watching the sun set over the city that made you rich. The high place of sacrifice sits above Petra, carved into the mountaintop. The priests use it for ceremonies, but right now, you have it to yourself. Just you and the view. And what a view. Below, Petra spreads out like something from a dream. Hundreds of facades carved into rose-red cliffs, glowing in the late afternoon sun. The sick, a dark slash through the rock. The marketplace, still busy even as day ends. Smoke from cooking fires rising from 1,000 homes. From up here, you can see the whole impossible achievement. A city where there should be only desert. Wealth where there should be only survival. Culture, art, engineering, commerce, all thriving in a place that every logical person would say can't support human life. And yet, the light changes. The rose-red stone turns deeper, richer, amber bleeding into burgundy, purple shadows growing in the carved depths. This is when Petra is most beautiful, when the desert becomes a canvas and the sunset paints it in colors that don't have names. You think about your father. He was a trader too, not as successful as you've become, but he taught you everything. How to read a merchant's eyes during negotiation, how to judge silk quality by touch, how to know which caravan master would get his goods through. He stood here too, watched sunsets like this, built the foundation you're profiting from. Your son will stand here someday, hopefully, if this all lasts. That's the thought that won't leave you alone. How long does this last? Petra has been powerful for generations, but empires rise and fall. You've seen it in the temple, Roman influence creeping in, changing things. You've heard whispers from merchants who've been to Rome. They're not afraid of Petra. They respect it, maybe even admire it, but they're not afraid. And when Rome stops being afraid of you, when Rome stops needing you, what then? The silk routes are changing, new sea routes opening, technology improving. The world is shifting, and Petra's advantage might not be perfect forever. But tonight, the city glows. Tonight, you're successful. Tonight, Petra is still the center of the world. The sun touches the horizon. The whole desert turns gold, then red, then purple. Shadows race across the valley. You'll come back tomorrow, make more deals, move more goods. Keep building wealth while you can, because nothing lasts forever. Not empires, not trade routes, not even cities carved in stone. But while it lasts, it's magnificent.
Night falls on Petra. Oil lamps flicker to life across the city, one by one, like stars reflected in the stone. The market quiets. The caravans bed down for the night. Tomorrow, they'll move on, west to Gaza and the sea, east toward the Spice Kingdoms, north to Damascus, south to the Frankincense lands. And Petra will take its cut, like always. You make your way home through streets carved in shadow. Your family is waiting. Dinner will be simple but good. Your wife will ask about the silk deal. Your son will want to hear stories about the Indian merchant. Normal life in an extraordinary city. But you can't shake the feeling that you're living in the last days of something. Not the last days of Petra. The city will stand for centuries, even millennia. Those carved facades aren't going anywhere. But the last days of Petra as the center of the world. You don't know the specifics yet. Nobody does. But the future is out there, approaching like a distant caravan, and you can almost make out its shape. Within a generation, Rome will annex Nabataea, peacefully, diplomatically. Petra will become part of the empire, and for a while, that'll be fine. Maybe even profitable. Roman citizenship, access to new markets, protection. But Rome will also build new roads, better roads, roads that avoid the desert entirely, roads that don't need Petra. sea routes that ship directly from India to Rome, bypassing the desert completely. Faster, cheaper, no middlemen. The Nabataeans will adapt. They always do. They'll build monuments, beautiful buildings. They'll try to become a tourist destination instead of a trade hub, and it'll work for a while. But the golden age, this moment, right now, when Petra controls the wealth of 3 continents, this is the peak. You don't know it yet, but you're living in the moment historians will write about for the next 2,000 years. The moment before everything changed. You reach your home, the door carved into rose-red stone. Your wife smiles. Dinner is ready. Your children run to greet you. And for tonight, the world is perfect. Tomorrow, the caravans will come again. The deals will be made. The taxes collected. The water will flow through hidden channels. The city will wake up in shades of rose and gold. Because Petra isn't just a city. It's a miracle. A place that conquered the impossible desert and became the richest trading hub the ancient world had ever seen. The rocks will remember. The Treasury will stand for millennia. Tourists will walk through the sick 2,000 years from now and ask the same question you hear every day. How do they build this? But the better question is, how did they make this work? The answer is simple and brilliant and completely unrepeatable. They found the one spot on Earth where every trade route intersected. They solved the water problem everyone said was unsolvable. They built trust when the world ran on violence. They created wealth by connecting, not conquering. And for a few perfect generations, they were the center of everything. The stars come out over Petra, the same stars that guide the caravans, the same stars that will shine long after empires fall and cities crumble. You eat dinner with your family. You tell stories about the silk merchant. You don't mention the Romans or the changing routes or the uncertain future, because tonight, Petra is still the greatest city in the world, and you're one of the luckiest people in it. The oil lamp flickers. Shadows dance on carved walls. Tomorrow, the desert sun will rise again. And Petra, impossible, magnificent Petra, will wake up and do what it does best. Survive, thrive, against all odds, just like it always has.